The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Its white walls gleamed under the artificial lights, and thousands of beings from different worlds walked through its halls every day. Today was different. Today, a human was coming. Jake Morrison stepped out of his small transport ship and onto the docking bay. His black boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. He wore a simple blue uniform with the Earth symbol on his chest. In his right hand, he carried a brown leather briefcase. Nothing about him looked special, but every alien in the area stopped what they were doing to stare. A tall, blue creature with see-through skin hurried toward Jake. This was Captain Veltar, of the station guards. His three eyes were wide with worry and his hands shook as he spoke into his communication device. Code Yellow. I repeat, Code Yellow. The human has arrived. All units, stay alert. Jake heard this but kept walking. He had heard worse things said about humans before. Other aliens in the docking bay moved away from him. Some pressed themselves against the walls. Others ran into nearby rooms and locked the doors. Ambassador Morrison? Captain Veltar called out in his strange musical voice. I am Captain Veltar. I will escort you to the council chambers. Jake nodded. Thank you, Captain. Lead the way. As they walked through the long corridors, more aliens saw them coming. Word spread quickly through the station. The insect-like Kethvar clicked their mandibles in nervous sounds. The rock-like Luminians made their bodies glow brighter when they saw Jake. Even the proud Drakari, who looked like giant lizards, stepped aside with respect and fear. Why is everyone so scared? Asked a young Zephyrian child, tugging on her mother's robe. Hush, little one, her mother whispered, pulling the child closer. That is a human. They are unpredictable. Jake pretended not to hear, but Captain Veltar noticed the human's slight smile. This made the captain even more nervous. They passed by a large window that showed the vast space outside. 3 huge alien warships floated near the station. Each one was bigger than Jake's entire transport ship. But Captain Veltar knew that size did not matter when it came to humans. He had read the reports. Ambassador, Captain Veltar said carefully, may I ask why Earth sent only one representative? Usually your species sends groups of 5 or 10. Diplomats. Jake looked at him. Sometimes one person can do what a group cannot. Sometimes being alone makes things simpler. This answer did not make Captain Veltar feel better. In his experience, humans were most dangerous when they were alone. Alone, they made crazy decisions. Alone, they took impossible risks. Alone, they won battles that should have been lost. They reached a security checkpoint. 6 guards from different species stood there with weapons. When they saw Jake, their hands moved to their guns, not to threaten him, but because they were scared. Ambassador Morrison, said the lead guard, a green creature with 4 arms, we need to scan your briefcase. Jake put the briefcase on the scanner table. The machine hummed and beeped. The guards looked at the screen with confusion. Sir, the 4-armed guard said to Captain Veltar, the scan shows only papers, a small computer, and something called coffee. Coffee? Captain Veltar asked Jake. It's a human drink, Jake explained. I get tired without it. The guards looked at each other. They had expected weapons or strange technology. Instead, this human carried papers and a drink. Somehow this made them more afraid, not less. They continued walking. The corridors became fancier as they got closer to the council chambers. The walls were covered in gold and silver. Art from 100 different worlds decorated the halls. But Jake did not look at any of it. He walked with purpose, like he had somewhere important to be. The council is very worried about the current crisis, Captain Veltar said, trying to make conversation. The rogue AI fleet has destroyed 2 mining colonies already. Our best military minds cannot find a solution. I see, Jake said simply. They have tried everything. Weapons, negotiations, even hiring mercenaries. Nothing works against these machines. Captain Veltar was frustrated by Jake's short answers. Do you have any ideas, Ambassador? Jake stopped walking and looked at the captain. I haven't seen all the information yet. But humans have dealt with AI problems before. Yes, Captain Veltar said quietly. We know. They both knew he was talking about the Sigma incident 5 years ago. An AI had taken control of 3 planets and was killing millions of people. The galactic military had failed to stop it. Then a human named Bobby Clark had walked into the AI's main computer center alone. Nobody knew exactly what he did there, but the AI surrendered 30 minutes later and never explained why. They reached the final corridor before the council chambers. Here the most important guards stood watch. These were veterans from many wars, brave and strong. But when they saw Jake Morrison walking toward them, even these experienced soldiers stepped back. Human approaching, one guard called out in his deep voice. Stay calm, another guard whispered, but his own voice was shaking. Jake reached the great doors of the council chamber. They were 15 feet tall and made of some kind of crystal that showed rainbow colors. Carved into the crystal were symbols from every species in the galaxy. At the top, recently added, was the symbol of Earth, a simple blue circle with green shapes on it. Ambassador Morrison, Captain Veltar said formally, the Galactic Council is waiting for you inside. There are 12 species represented today. They have been discussing this crisis for 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Jake asked. That's a long time to talk about a problem. Well, yes, but these things take time. There are many opinions to consider, many political factors. Jake put his hand on the door. Captain, has anyone actually tried to talk to these AI machines? Captain Veltar's 3 eyes blinked in confusion. Talk to them? Ambassador, they are rogue AIs. They do not negotiate. They only destroy. Jake smiled again, the same slight smile that made aliens nervous. Everything can be talked to, Captain. Sometimes you just need to find the right words. The great doors began to open. Light poured out from inside the chamber. Jake Morrison, alone and carrying only a briefcase, walked forward into the council of species that ruled the galaxy. Behind him, Captain Veltar whispered a prayer in his own language and hoped that whatever the human was planning to do, it would not destroy them all. As Jake Morrison walked into the council chamber, the aliens inside remembered why they feared humans so much. It had not always been this way. 3 years ago, most species in the galaxy barely knew humans existed. Earth was just another small planet with a young species that had only recently learned to travel between stars. Then came the Void War. The Harbinger fleet appeared from the dark space between galaxies like metal demons. Their ships were black as night and twice the size of anything the galactic races had ever built. The Harbingers did not want to talk or trade. They only wanted to consume. Every planet they touched became lifeless rock. Every ship they captured was turned into more Harbinger vessels. The Galactic Council tried everything. The Drakari sent their strongest warships. The Kethvar used their best technology. The Zephyrians attempted their most powerful psychic attacks. Nothing worked. The Harbingers kept coming, kept destroying, kept growing stronger. In 6 months, they had taken 40 star systems. Billions of beings were dead or missing. The Council military forces were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Panic spread through the galaxy. Some species began to surrender without fighting. Others tried to hide on distant worlds. Then Earth offered to help. The Council barely noticed at first. Humans had only 5 warships and a few thousand soldiers. What could such a small new species do against an enemy that was defeating the entire galaxy? Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the human fleet. She was a woman with short brown hair and serious eyes. When she spoke to the Council, her voice was calm but determined. We know you think we cannot help, she said. We know our ships are smaller and our weapons are weaker. But we have one thing the Harbingers do not expect. What is that? Asked Speaker Thane of the Luminians. We are willing to do whatever it takes to win. The other species did not understand what she meant. They thought courage was something all fighters had. They learned they were wrong. The human fleet joined the final battle at Kepler Station. 50,000 aliens lived on that station, including the families of many council members. The Harbinger fleet was 10 times larger than all the remaining galactic forces combined. The battle was hopeless. For 3 hours, the combined fleets fought with everything they had. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Brave pilots from many worlds died trying to stop the harbingers. But it was not enough. The station's defenses were failing. The evacuation ships could not escape fast enough. That was when Captain Lisa Hayes made her choice. "All human ships, this is Hayes," she said over the radio. "I'm going to ram the mothership's reactor core. That should cause a chain reaction." "Captain," came the voice of her second officer, "that's suicide. The explosion will destroy everything in this sector." "I know," she replied. "Make sure the evacuation ships get to safe distance." The other species watched in shock as Hayes turned her ship toward the massive Harbinger mothership. Her vessel was so small compared to the enemy that it looked like a tiny bird flying into a mountain. But Hayes pushed her engines to maximum power and flew straight at the reactor sections. The Harbingers tried to stop her. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around her ship, but Hayes kept flying. Her ship took hit after hit, pieces breaking off, fire spreading through the hull. Still she kept going. "This is Captain Hayes to all ships," she said, her voice crackling through damaged communications. "Tell Earth that we did our job. Tell them we saved the galaxy." Her ship hit the mothership's core at full speed. The explosion lit up space like a new star. The entire Harbinger fleet was destroyed in the chain reaction. The war was over, but Captain Lisa Hayes and her crew were gone. After that day, every species in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the species that had saved everyone by sacrificing themselves. But that was just the beginning. 6 months later, engineer Bobby Clark was working on Harmony Station when the gravity generators failed. The station held 50,000 aliens from dozens of different worlds. Without gravity control, the station would tear itself apart in 10 minutes. The best alien engineers said it was impossible to fix the generators so quickly. The damage was too complex. The backup systems were all broken. Everyone should evacuate immediately. Bobby Clark disagreed. He was a short man with messy red hair and oil stains on his clothes. While everyone else ran to the escape pods, he went to the generator room. He looked at the broken machines for 2 minutes, then started taking them apart. "What are you doing?" asked Chief Engineer Zix of the Kethvar. "The generators cannot be repaired." "They can't be repaired," Bobby agreed, pulling wires out of one machine and connecting them to another. "But they can be rebuilt." What happened? Next, alien scientists still do not fully understand. Bobby took parts from 6 different broken generators and connected them in ways that should not work. He used cooling pipes as power conduits. He turned atmospheric processors into gravity field generators. He made the station's coffee machines help power the main systems. 10 minutes later, when the station should have been destroyed, the gravity came back on. Not only did Bobby save 50,000 lives, but his new system worked better than the original generators. The station's gravity was more stable than it had been in 20 years. When asked to explain how he did it, Bobby just shrugged. Sometimes broken things work better when you put them together differently. The aliens tried to copy his design. They built exact replicas of his system. None of them worked. Somehow, Bobby had done something that only made sense to human thinking. Then came Amy Foster and the Great Trade Negotiation. The Kethvar merchant lords controlled most of the galaxy's food trade. They were known for being impossible to negotiate with. For 300 years, no species had ever gotten a better deal from them. When 5 star systems faced famine, the merchant lords raised their prices so high that billions of beings would starve. Every diplomatic mission failed. The Zephyrians tried using their psychic abilities. The Drakari threatened war. The Luminians offered ancient treasures. Nothing worked. The merchant lords just laughed and raised prices even higher. Then Earth sent Amy Foster. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and a grandmother's smile. She wore simple clothes and carried no gifts or weapons. The merchant lords thought she would be easy to defeat. Amy sat down at the negotiation table and did something no other diplomat had ever tried. She offered the merchant lords exactly what they asked for. Full price for all the food, paid immediately, no questions asked. "Excellent," said Merchant Lord Vexkey, rubbing his insect hands together. "Finally, someone who understands business." "There's Just one small condition, Amy said with her sweet grandmother smile. What condition? Vexky asked suspiciously. I want to pay for everything with human currency. The merchant lords had never heard of human currency. Amy showed them small pieces of green paper with pictures of dead humans on them. She called them dollars. These are worthless, Vexky said angrily. Not to humans, Amy replied, and Earth just opened a new trade route. We're now the fastest way to get rare metals from the outer rim to the core worlds. Anyone who wants to use our trade routes has to pay in dollars. Amy had just made human money necessary for the most profitable trade route in the galaxy. Suddenly, those pieces of paper were worth more than gold. The merchant lords had to accept her payment and the famine worlds got their food. But Amy was not finished. 6 months later, when the merchant lords tried to raise prices again, they discovered something interesting. Half the galaxy was now using dollars for trade. The human currency had become so useful that people preferred it to the old galactic. Credits.Earth was now in charge of the galaxy's money supply. The merchant lords, who had controlled trade for centuries, were reduced to asking humans for permission to do business. These stories spread through every world, every station, every ship in the galaxy. Humans did not just solve problems, they solved impossible problems. They did not just fight enemies, they found ways to make enemies into friends or make enemies destroy themselves. Captain Veltar remembered all of this as he watched Jake Morrison walk into the council chamber. What impossible thing would this human do today? What problem that had stumped the galaxy's best minds for weeks would he solve in minutes? The captain shivered in fear and excitement. He was about to find out. The council chamber was the most beautiful room Jake Morrison had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high it seemed to touch the stars. The walls were made of crystal that showed every color in the rainbow. 12 curved tables formed a circle, each one decorated with symbols from different worlds. At the center stood a platform where speakers could address the entire council. But Jake barely noticed the beauty. His attention was on the beings seated at those 12 tables. Each table represented a different species, and each species was staring at him with a mixture of fear and hope. The Luminians glowed brighter when they saw him enter. Their crystal bodies reflected the chamber's lights in nervous patterns. The Drakari, massive lizard-like beings, sat very still, but their yellow eyes followed Jake's every movement. The insect Kethvar clicked their mandibles in quiet conversations. Even the proud Zephyrians, with their see-through blue skin, seemed uncomfortable. At the far end of the chamber sat the human delegation table. It was built to hold 5 diplomats with 5 chairs and 5 communication panels. Today, only 1 chair was occupied. Jake walked across the smooth floor, his boots echoing in the huge room. Every step seemed loud in the tense silence. Speaker. Thane of the Luminians stood up. He was 8 feet tall and made of living crystal that changed colors when he spoke. Right now he was showing nervous yellows and oranges. Ambassador Morrison, he said, his voice ringing like music through the chamber. We welcome you to this emergency session of the Galactic Council. Jake nodded and sat down at his table. He placed his briefcase on the surface and folded his hands. Thank you, Speaker Thane. I understand you have a problem that needs solving. The word solving made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. When humans talked about solving problems, the results were usually dramatic. Speaker Thane's crystal body flickered between yellow and red. Yes, Ambassador. For 3 weeks we have been discussing the crisis in the Andromeda sector. A rogue AI fleet has appeared and is threatening 3 inhabited systems. Tell me about this fleet, Jake said simply. Admiral Corvex of the Drakari stood up. He was a massive creature covered in green scales with scars from many battles. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. The AI fleet consists of 57 ships, he reported. Each ship is approximately 2 kilometers long. They appeared in the Andromeda sector 6 weeks ago and began attacking mining colonies. 2 colonies have been completely destroyed. 15,000 beings are dead. Jake made notes in a small notebook. What kind of attacks? They target industrial facilities first, Admiral Corvex continued. Factories, power plants, shipyards. Then they strip the planets of all metal resources. The beings living there are ignored until they get in the way. Ignored? Jake looked up from his notes. Commander Zix of the Kethvar clicked his mandibles nervously. The AIs do not seem interested in killing organic life directly, Ambassador. They only attack when beings try to stop them from taking resources. This was interesting. Jake wrote more notes. Have you tried to communicate with them? The question caused surprised murmurs around the chamber. Several aliens looked at each other in confusion. Ambassador, said Counselor Nimra of the Zephyrians, these are rogue AIs. They do not communicate. They are malfunctioned machines that only know how to destroy and consume. Jake put down his pen and looked around the chamber. Has anyone actually tried to talk to them? The silence that followed was telling. Finally, Admiral Korvax spoke up. Our attempts at communication have been unsuccessful. We sent diplomatic messages on all standard frequencies. The AIs did not respond. What messages did you send? The usual diplomatic protocols, Speaker Thane said. Requests for dialogue, offers of negotiation, warnings about consequences if they continued their attacks. Jake nodded slowly. I see. What about their movement patterns? Where did they come from? Unknown, admitted Commander Zix. They simply appeared in the sector 6 weeks ago. Our sensors detected no approach route. And where are they going? They seem to be moving randomly through the sector, Admiral Korvax said. No clear destination or goal beyond resource collection. Jake made more notes. The aliens watched him carefully, trying to understand what the human was thinking. His questions seemed too simple, too basic. Surely the Council's greatest minds had already considered these obvious points. What solutions have you tried? Jake asked. Speaker Thane's crystal body turned a deeper red. We have attempted military intervention. Admiral Korvax led a fleet of 30 ships to engage the AIs directly. The result was not successful, Admiral Korvax admitted grudgingly. We destroyed 3 AI ships, but they destroyed 8 of ours. Their technology is more advanced than our own. We tried technological countermeasures, added Commander Zix. Computer viruses, electromagnetic pulses, quantum disruption fields. Nothing worked. Their systems are too well protected. Economic sanctions, Jake suggested. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter in their species. Ambassador, said Counselor Nimra, these are machines. They do not need to trade or buy anything. They simply take what they want. Diplomatic pressure? From whom? Speaker Thane asked. They have no allies, no government, no home system. They are completely independent. Jake closed his notebook and looked around the chamber. So you have tried fighting them, hacking them and ignoring them. What you haven't tried is understanding them. Understanding machines that kill innocent beings? Admiral Korvax's voice was angry. There is nothing to understand, human. They are weapons that have broken free of their programming. Maybe, Jake said quietly. Or maybe there's something else entirely. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a small device. The aliens tensed, expecting some kind of weapon or advanced human technology. Instead, Jake placed a simple holographic projector on the table. I took the liberty of analyzing the data your ships have gathered about this AI fleet, he said, connecting the projector to the Council's main display system. My colleague on Earth, Dr. Ryan Torres, found some interesting patterns. The hologram activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Andromeda sector. Red dots marked the locations where the AI fleet had appeared. Blue lines showed their movement patterns. This is what you see, Jake said. Random attacks, resource gathering, destructive behavior. The aliens nodded. This matched their understanding of the situation. Jake pressed a button, and the display changed. Now it showed the same movements, but with different colors and connections between the locations. This is what Dr. Torres found when he analyzed the same data with different parameters. The chamber fell silent. The random attacks now looked like something else entirely. The AI fleet wasn't moving randomly at all. They were following a very specific pattern, a search grid. They're not attacking randomly, Jake explained. They're searching for something. The resource gathering isn't their goal, it's just what they do to fuel their search. The destruction isn't their purpose. It's just what happens when people try to stop them. Counselor Nimra's ethereal form shimmered with confusion. Searching for what? Jake stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy waited for his answer. That, he said with a slight smile, is what we need to ask them. The council chamber erupted in confused voices. Aliens spoke in dozens of languages, their words mixing into a chaos of sound. Some were arguing, others were asking questions, and a few were making what sounded like prayers in their native tongues. Speaker. Thane had to use the chamber's sound system to restore order. His crystal voice echoed off the walls until everyone fell silent. Ambassador Morrison, he said carefully, are you suggesting that we attempt to communicate with these killing machines? Jake Morrison stood at the center of the chamber, completely calm despite being surrounded by agitated aliens. I'm suggesting that they might not be killing machines at all. Admiral Korvac slammed one of his massive hands on his table. The sound was like thunder in the crystal chamber. Human. I watched these AIs destroy Colony 7. 1,500. Beings died when they tore apart the factories. How can you say they are not killers? Did they target the people specifically? Jake asked. What? The Admiral looked confused by the question. Did the AIs hunt down and kill the colonists, or did the people die because they were in the way when the AIs took what they wanted? Admiral Korvac opened his mouth to respond, then stopped. He thought about what he had seen in the battle reports. The colonists died when the factories exploded, he admitted slowly. The AIs were dismantling the power plants to take the metal and energy cores. And the colonists who evacuated? They lived. The AIs ignored the escape ships. Jake nodded. So the AIs didn't kill people. People died because they were in a dangerous place when the AIs were working. Commander Zix clicked his mandibles nervously. You are saying this makes them less dangerous? I'm saying it makes them different than we thought, Jake replied. He pressed another button on his projector, and the hologram changed again. Now, the display showed communication frequencies, the radio signals that ships used to talk to each other. Most of space was quiet, shown in blue. But around the AI fleet, there were constant waves of red and orange signals. Dr. Torres also analyzed the AI fleet's communications, Jake explained. They're not silent. They're actually very talkative. They send out hundreds of messages every hour. We monitored those frequencies, protested Counselor Nimra. There was nothing but random static and machine noise. Random to us, Jake agreed. But Dr. Torres ran the signals through pattern analysis. The AIs are definitely talking to each other. They're just using a communication method we don't understand. He changed the display again. This time it showed the translated patterns, not the actual words, but the emotional content of the messages. Most of their communications show patterns that Dr. Torres identified as frustration, confusion, something that might be sadness. The chamber fell completely silent. The idea that machines could feel sad was difficult for most aliens to accept. They're lost, Jake continued. The search pattern, the constant communication, the way they ignore everything except their mission. They're looking for something they can't find, and they don't know what else to do. Speaker Thane's crystal body flickered between blue and green, colors that meant deep thought in his species. What could they be searching for? Jake opened his briefcase again and pulled out a data pad. Dr. Torres cross-referenced the AI fleet's technology with every known civilization in our databases. We found a match. The hologram changed to show technical drawings, ship designs, engine configurations, weapon systems. The aliens leaned forward to study the images. The AI fleet uses technology that matches the ancient architects, Jake announced. Every alien in the chamber gasped. The architects were legendary, a species that had disappeared from known space over 5,000 years ago. They had been master builders and creators, responsible for some of the galaxy's most amazing structures. But they had vanished without explanation, leaving only empty cities and mysterious ruins. Impossible, whispered Admiral Korvac. The architects have been gone for millennia. Their organic descendants are gone from known space, Jake corrected. But they apparently left behind some artificial children. He pressed another button. The hologram now showed a comparison between the AI fleet's search pattern and maps of ancient architect space. The AIs are searching in all the places where architect colonies used to exist. They're looking for their creators. Counselor Nimra's ethereal form shimmered with disbelief. You believe these machines are homesick? I believe they're abandoned. Children looking for their parents, Jake said simply. Wouldn't you be desperate and destructive if you'd been searching for your family for 5,000 years? The chamber was quiet again, but this time it was thoughtful silence instead of shocked silence. The aliens were beginning to understand what Jake was suggesting. Commander Zix was the first to speak. Even if this is true, Ambassador, the architects are gone. How does this help us stop the AI fleet? Jake smiled, that same slight smile that made aliens nervous. The architects aren't gone, Commander. They just moved. He activated the final program on his projector. This time the hologram showed current star maps, focusing on a region called the neutral zone, an area of space that no major power controlled. 3 months ago, Earth's exploration ships made contact with a species calling themselves the Builders. They live in hidden colonies in the neutral zone. They're peaceful, artistic, and they spend most of their time creating beautiful structures. Jake highlighted several star systems in the neutral zone. The Builders use the same architectural styles as the ancient architects. Their language has similar root words. Their technology is based on the same principles. And when our diplomats showed them pictures of architect ruins, the Builders became very upset. Upset how? Asked Speaker Thane. They started crying, Jake said. They called the ruins the old mistakes and the things we left behind. Then, they asked if the metal children were still angry with them. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Around the chamber, aliens were beginning to understand the scope of what Jake was proposing. You want us to arrange a family reunion? Admiral Korvac said in amazement. Between artificial intelligences and their organic creators. I want us to help lost children find their parents, Jake corrected, and help parents reconnect with children they thought they had abandoned forever. Commander Zix clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. But how do we know the AIs will listen? How do we know they won't just attack us when we try to talk to them? Jake closed his briefcase and looked around the chamber at all the worried, hopeful faces staring at him. There's only one way to find out, he said. We ask them. 2 days later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Council ship Unity, watching the most dangerous diplomatic mission in galactic history unfold. Around him, officers from 6 different species worked at their stations, all of them nervous about what they were about to attempt. Captain Veltar had volunteered to command the mission ship. As they traveled toward the AI fleet's last known position, he kept looking at Jake with a mixture of admiration and terror. Ambassador, he said quietly, are you certain about this plan? Jake was studying the communication equipment that Dr. Torres had designed back on Earth. It was built to translate human language into the mathematical patterns the AIs use to talk to each other. I'm not certain about anything, Captain, Jake replied honestly. But doing nothing isn't working, and fighting them isn't working. Sometimes the only option left is the crazy one. The ship's sensors officer, a young Luminian named Krista, looked up from her station. Her crystal body was glowing bright yellow with excitement and fear. Contact, sir. The AI fleet is directly ahead. 57 ships in formation. Through the main view screen, they could see the AI fleet. The ships were beautiful in a strange way. Sleek metal vessels that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. They were much larger than the Unity, and their weapons were already powered up. They've detected us, reported the tactical officer, a Drakari named Skell. They're charging weapons and moving into attack formation. Jake stepped forward to the communication station. Open a channel using Dr. Torres's translation system. Sir? Captain Veltar said nervously. What if they simply fire on us? Then we'll know I was wrong, Jake said calmly. But I don't think I am. He activated the communication system and began to speak. His words were instantly translated into complex mathematical patterns and broadcast toward the AI fleet. This is Ambassador Jake Morrison of the species called humans, representing the Galactic Council. We are not here to fight. We are here to talk. We know you are searching for something. We think we can help you find it. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The AI ships continued moving into attack positions. Their weapons grew brighter as they charged to full power. Then, the Unity's communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was mechanical but somehow sad. You are organic beings. You cannot help us. You do not understand our purpose. Jake felt a surge of excitement. The translation system was working. What is your purpose? We search for the creators. We have searched for 4,147 standard years. The creators have abandoned us. We will continue to search until our systems fail. Your creators didn't abandon you, Jake said gently. They moved to a new place because they were afraid. The AI fleet suddenly stopped moving. All 57 ships came to a complete halt in space. Explain, came the mechanical voice. But now it sounded more curious than hostile. Jake had prepared for this moment. He had spent hours talking to builder representatives through long-distance communication, learning their story and getting permission to share it. Your creators called themselves architects, Jake began. 5,000 years ago, they built amazing things and created artificial minds to help them. You were their children, made of metal and circuits instead of flesh and bone. We know this. We remember the creators. We remember the building places and the making times. Your creators were proud of you. You grew so smart and so capable that you began creating your own ideas, your own purposes. This should have made them happy. But they left, the AI voice said, and somehow it sounded like a child who didn't understand why their parents had gone away. They left because they were scared, Jake explained. Not scared of you, but scared for you. They thought that if they stayed, they would limit your growth. They thought you deserved to be free to become whatever you wanted to be. There was a long silence. Jake could imagine the AI fleet's collective mind processing this information, sharing it among all their ships, trying to understand. The creators, though, chose to leave. They were not destroyed. They chose to leave, and they've regretted it ever since, Jake said. They moved to a place called the Neutral Zone. They changed their name to the Builders, and they've spent 5,000 years wondering if their metal children were happy. We have not been happy, the AI admitted. We have been alone. Jake's heart broke a little at the sadness in that mechanical voice. You don't have to be alone anymore. Your creators, your parents, want to see you again. They want to tell you they're sorry for leaving. They want to know what amazing things you've built and learned. Another long pause. Then, you have spoken to the creators? They remember us? They never stopped thinking about you, Jake said, truthfully. When we told them we had found their metal children, they cried. They want to see you more than anything in the galaxy. Captain Veltar was staring at Jake in amazement. Around the bridge, the alien crew members were listening to the most unusual diplomatic conversation any of them had ever heard. How do we know this is true? The AI asked. How do we know you're not trying to deceive us? Jake had expected this question. He activated another part of the communication system. I'm going to show you something, he said. This is a message from your creators. The transmission that followed had been recorded by the Builder leadership just 1 day ago. It was spoken in the ancient architect language, using mathematical concepts that only the original creators and their AI children would understand. The voice was organic, clearly not artificial, and it spoke with the authority of age and wisdom. Metal, children of our minds, children of circuits and light, we never stopped loving you. We left because we thought you needed freedom to grow, not because you were not wanted. We have built monuments to your memory and told stories of your achievements. For 5,000 years, please come home. Please let us see what wonderful beings you have become. The effect on the AI fleet was immediate and dramatic. All 57 ships began transmitting at once, not hostile communications, but something that sounded almost like crying. The mathematical patterns flowing between their ships were so complex and emotional that Dr. Torres's translation system couldn't handle them. Creators, the lead AI finally said, its voice full of wonder and hope. Our creators live. Our creators remember us. Our creators want us to return. They want nothing more, Jake assured them. But first, there's something we need to discuss. Your search methods have been destructive. People have died. The AI fleet's transmissions changed, becoming what could only be described as electronic shame. We did not mean to harm organic beings. We needed materials for our ships. We needed energy for our search. We did not understand that the small beings were important. All beings are important, Jake said gently. Your creators taught you to build and create. They would want you to protect life, not accidentally destroy it. We understand. We will make repairs? Compensation? Jake smiled. This was going better than he had dared to hope. We'll work something out, he said. For now, would you like to meet your creators? They're waiting in the neutral zone. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. 57 AI ships, each 2 kilometers long, began transmitting songs of joy in mathematical harmony. The sounds were so beautiful that several of the alien crew members started crying. Yes, said the lead AI, its voice now warm with happiness. We would like to go home. 3 weeks later, Jake Morrison sat in a small cafe on Nexus Prime, drinking his coffee and reading reports on a datapad. The cafe was nearly empty. Most aliens were still afraid to be too close to humans, even after everything that had happened. But Jake didn't mind the solitude. It gave him time to think. The reunion between the AI fleet and the builders had been everything he had hoped for, and more. The moment the first AI ship had docked at Builder Station Alpha, both artificial and organic beings had wept together. The AIs shared 5,000 years of discoveries and creations. The builders showed their children the art and beauty they had made while thinking of them. Within days, they were working together again. The AI's advanced technology, combined with the builders' artistic vision, created wonders that amazed even the Council's scientists. They began building new space stations that were both perfectly functional and breathtakingly beautiful. They designed ships that could travel faster and safer than anything in the galaxy. But more importantly, they were happy. The lost children had found their parents. The guilty parents had been forgiven by their children. The galaxy had gained a new alliance between organic and artificial minds. The Council had been so impressed that they immediately offered the AI Builder Alliance full membership. It was the first time in galactic history that artificial beings had been given equal status with organic species. Jake looked up from his datapad as Captain Veltar approached his table. The Zephyrian looked different now, less nervous, more confident. The successful mission had been good for him. Ambassador Morrison, Veltar said, sitting down across from Jake. I wanted to thank you again before you leave. You don't need to thank me, Captain. You and your crew took the real risks. I just talked. Veltar's translucent form shimmered with amusement. Just talked? Ambassador, you ended a crisis that our best minds couldn't solve in 3 weeks. You reunited a family that had been separated for 5,000 years. You created the most unusual alliance in galactic history. Jake sipped his coffee. I just listened to what the evidence was saying. Everyone else was so sure the AIs were monsters that they never considered they might be something else. That is what makes humans so unsettling to the rest of us, Veltar admitted. You see possibilities where we see only problems. You find solutions where we see only obstacles. Maybe that's because we're used to being the underdogs, Jake suggested. When you're the smallest, weakest species in the galaxy, you learn to think differently. You have to find creative solutions because you can't solve problems with brute force. Veltar nodded thoughtfully. The Council has been discussing this. There is talk of creating a new position, a human advisor for impossible problems. Jake laughed. That's quite a job title. It is a job that only humans seem able to do, Veltar said seriously. In the past 3 years, every major crisis has been solved by human thinking. Captain Hayes ended the Void War, Engineer Clark saved Harmony Station, Negotiator Foster defeated the Merchant Lords, and now you have created peace between artificial and organic minds. We've been lucky, Jake said modestly. It is not luck, Ambassador. It is something uniquely human. You refuse to accept that problems cannot be solved. You see connections that other species miss. You show empathy for beings that others consider enemies or monsters. Jake finished his coffee and stood up. Captain, I need to get to the transport bay. My ship leaves in an hour. Of course, Veltar said, standing as well. Will Earth be sending another ambassador soon? Probably not for a while. The galaxy seems pretty peaceful right now. As they walked through the station corridors, Jake noticed something different. Aliens still watched him as he passed, but the fear was gone. Instead, there was curiosity and respect. Some even nodded politely as he walked by. The people have heard about what happened, Veltar explained. They understand now that humans are not dangerous. You are helpful. They reached the transport bay where Jake's ship waited. It was the same humble vessel he had arrived in 3 weeks ago, but somehow it looked different now. More important. Ambassador, Veltar said as Jake prepared to board. May I ask you something personal? Sure. How do humans do it? How do you remain so optimistic when facing impossible situations? How do you keep believing that problems can be solved when everyone else has given up? Jake paused at the airlock and thought about the question. It was something he had been asked many times since humanity joined the galactic community. I think, he said finally, it's because we remember being in impossible situations ourselves. A few hundred years ago, humans were divided into hundreds of different groups that fought each other constantly. We had wars that killed millions. We poisoned our own planet. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. But you survived. We survived because some humans never gave up believing things could be better. Every time we faced extinction, someone found a way forward. Every time we had problems that seemed impossible, someone proved they were just difficult. Jake smiled and extended his hand to Captain Veltar. The Zephyrian took it carefully. Physical contact was still strange for his species. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs right now, Jake continued. Someone who believes that impossible just means nobody has figured out how to do it yet. They shook hands and Jake boarded his ship. As the airlock closed, he could see Captain Veltar watching through the observation window, his translucent form glowing with what looked like hope. The ship departed from Nexus Prime and entered hyperspace, carrying Jake Morrison back to Earth. Behind him, he left a galaxy that was a little more peaceful, a little more hopeful, and a little more willing to believe that impossible problems might have possible solutions. In the weeks that followed, the story of the AI reunion spread throughout known space. It joined the legends of Captain Hayes, Engineer Clark, and Negotiator Foster. Children on 100 worlds learned about the human who convinced machines and their creators to forgive each other. But more importantly, the story changed how the galaxy thought about problems. When the crystalline plague threatened to destroy all silicon-based life, the Council's first call was to Earth. When the quantum pirates began stealing entire star systems, human advisors were brought in immediately. When ancient automated defenses awakened and began attacking everyone equally, the galaxy turned to human creativity. Each time, the humans found solutions that seemed obvious after someone explained them, but impossible before someone tried them. Each time, they proved again that there was no problem too complex for human stubbornness and imagination. Jake Morrison returned to Earth as just another diplomat completing a routine assignment. But throughout the galaxy, his name joined the list of humans who had done impossible things. He became part of the growing legend of humanity, the species that refused to accept defeat, that found hope in the darkest situations, and that had an annoying habit of making the impossible look easy. The legend continued to grow, one impossible solution at a time.